Hey there everyone, Nubkeks here, and in today's video we're taking a look at the Holy Priest spec on the Shadowlands beta for World of Warcraft. This is the third and final spec that we're doing this initial look at for Priest. You can check out the Shadow and Discipline videos already on the channel, and of course we'll be looking at all the other classes and specs coming up, and if there are any updates to the Priest, and hopefully there will be, and I'll point out some that should come through, of course, in this video. But yeah, we'll take a look at those if and when those come through. So, without any further ado, let us dive in to look at the Priest, where we have some Frost Mages over there having an absolutely a fantastic time, it seems like. Okay, let's look at Holy. All right, so the first thing I want to cover for Holy, we have a few changes to the already existing Holy spells from BFA, and then we're also going to see a lot of new spells being added to the Holy Priest as well. So, first of all, changes to existing stuff. One nice thing actually coming through is that Circle of Healing is now a baseline part of our toolkit. So that's really, really nice. It was a very popular talent in BFA. So it's very simple. It's an instant cast spell, 40-yard range. It has by default a 15-second cooldown, reduced by haste. Yeah, as you can see over there on the right-hand side, it heals the target and 4 injured allies within 30 yards of the target for 1,000 health. To put it in perspective, Prayer of Healing is going to heal for 5,000 mana, and with the cast time, it's going to heal the same amount of targets for 900. So it is more mana efficient, and plus it's instant cast. So there you go, that's sort of how it fits into your toolkit. It's going to be a spell that you're going to be pressing pretty much on rotation. On a similar sort of note, Prayer of Mending, too many prayers, is now an instant cast ability. So yeah, that just means that it works into your rotation a little bit more smoothly. It's a spell that you can throw out on the move. So I think, you know, the two of those together already adds up to a nice little positive benefit, I'd say, to Holy Priest, which is already a relatively casting intense spec. You now have at least these two very short cooldown instant cast abilities that you can throw into your rotation while you're on the move and still maintain pretty efficient and powerful healing throughput. So that's nice. On the flip side then, we are having one spell switch from instant cast to actually being a cast time based spell, and that is Holy Fire. Holy Fire now has a 1.5 second cast time with a 10-second cooldown, 1,000 mana cost, so very cheap on mana. It's 40-yard range, and you can see this actually hits very hard now. So to give you again some perspective, Smite is going to hit for 935 holy damage. Shadowward Pain, which I'll come back to in a second, this is our dot, so a very efficient source of damage. That's going to do 200 plus 1,400, so that's doing 1,600 damage total. Holy Fire, in comparison, is going to do an instant 1,000, basically instant 2,000 holy damage and an additional 800 holy damage over 7 seconds. So this does a lot of damage. This is super powerful. And this is a big change coming from BFA. In BFA, it used to be instant cast, but also a lot of damage came from the dot effect, and the dot effect could stack up to 2 times. However, in order to stack the dot, you'd have to get a reset on Holy Fire by spamming Smite to reset it, and that was a chance-based thing. This is no longer there. It's just straight up damage, which is why it hits so much harder. This is overall a very, very positive change, though. Although you have to deal with the cast time, it feels okay because the ability is so beefy and such a big source of damage. But more importantly, whereas before I feel like, you know, here's the thing. Again, we just touched on Prayer of Healing and Prayer of Mending. Like, you know, I'm in a raid situation. I want to do damage, but I also want to keep some like efficient, just very sort of low to mid level raid healing going because it is mana efficient and that feels good. I want to be throwing out my Prayer of Mending. I want to be throwing out Circle of Healing. With the old reset-based Holy Fire, it felt like such a punishing thing to stop spamming Smite, because if you don't get that Holy Fire reset, you don't get that dot stacked up to 2 and refreshed. It felt like you're losing a lot of damage, and that kind of sucked. It just felt very inefficient in terms of DPS, right? So that's no longer there. You're going to feel really good if you're just pressing Holy Fire on cooldown, and then you can weave your healing spells in between, and you're going to feel like you're doing nice damage. That's great. Now, okay, speaking of damage, we have another bunch of abilities coming in as well, which are all related to damage. In my mind, the beta is absolutely bustling today. People are having a great time. So first of all, we have Shadowward Pain. So I already touched on this. Very welcome addition. It's just a dot. This is a core part of the Discipline and Shadow Priest specs. Now it's coming back to Holy as well. You know, dotting, multi-dotting, it tends to be very, very efficient for a damage press. The downside being that it happens over time, of course. But this is just a nice addition to our toolkit for both single target, just maintain that dot for good, efficient damage, or for multi-target to throw it out on multiple things at a time, which is a fun little management game. So very happy to see that come back. That's fantastic. We have three mind spells coming in. The first one is Mind Blast. So this is a 14, well, by default it's 1.5 second cast time and a 15 second cooldown, 40-yard range, 3000 mana cost. And it blasts the target's mind for about 1600 shadow damage. I feel this is a little bit clunky in terms of fitting into the spec. I would personally rather see them do something to fuse the two of these together. I could either see incorporate the sort of the rotational slot that Holy Fire has as just Mind Blast baseline, and then add in Holy Fire as a talent. I think would work quite well. That would upgrade Mind Blast to have the Holy Fire spell effect, and I think then to have it do something like the dot effect would also replicate as healing onto either the nearest target or the most injured target. Sort of something that would help our single target damage and also help our single target healing. I think that would be a welcome change for Mythic Plus, and make it so that we're not too cluttered up here in terms of damage spells. You could fit it in here instead of Benediction, for example, which is fine, but not that interesting. Holy Fire, I think, would be an interesting thing to compete with Divine Star and Halo. You know, Halo being big, sort of raid-wide healing on a long cooldown, Divine Star being sort of group healing on a short cooldown, and then you could stick in Holy Fire as an upgrade to Mind Blast as sort of single target healing on a very short cooldown. I think that would fit in pretty well and stop this being so cluttered. I mean, as you can already see, I'm honestly genuinely struggling to find enough comfortable keybinds to deal with all the Holy Priest toolkit. You can take a look at the Discipline Priest video, Shadow Priest video, any of the other specs. Demon Hunter is the next one coming up, next class. That's not even filling up these 2 bars at the bottom, like not even close. Holy Priest really has just too many buttons. I'll come back to that in a second though, because it is a problem. All right. That's Mind Blast. We also have Mind Seer. So this is coming from the Shadow Priest toolkit. This competes with Holy Nova. It's quite weird. Holy Nova has a very short GCD. Half a second shorter GCD, so you can spam it more. Whereas Mind Seer is slower and it's channeled. However, they both do the same amount of AoE DPS. The difference is that this is a 40-yard range and it's channeled, and you can even cast it on friendly targets, and you can cast it on your tank, and it will just pulse damage around the tank as they move around. Holy Nova comes from you, out from you. Holy Nova also has a minor, very minor healing component to it. It is, of course, instant cast, and it does have a mana cost. Again, I feel like these two sort of overlap. I'm not sure where Holy Nova came from. I can't remember now. I would suspect that possibly it came from being a holy replacement to these shadow spells. Like, I think that was kind of a thing, that they wanted Holy Priest to never use any shadow spells and just only holy spells. And they're always obviously moving away from that now. I definitely think that Mind Seer is a better spell. It's more interesting. I think Holy Nova, honestly, is kind of stupid looking. So, I'd rather see some sort of squash here, some sort of pruning, and move Holy Nova away, or have it be a talent or something instead of Mind Seer. In my opinion, I think Mind Seer just fits better with the Priest class as a whole, and it's good for the class identity thing that they're trying to push here in Shadowlands. Next up then, the final mind spell, we have Mind Soothe, which is over here. So this is a sort of a threat manipulating spell. It soothes the target, reducing the range at which it will attack you by 10 yards, only affecting humanoid and dragonkin targets, and it lasts for 20 seconds. This doesn't affect other people in your group, at least not yet. It only affects you. I don't know if that's intended or not. If this gets adjusted to affect everyone in our group, which would be fantastic. So very much hopeful that they will do that. We could, for example, pretend this guy is a humanoid mob. I could Mind Soothe him, and hey, we can slip past and up the stairs with our Mythic Plus group and do a cool Mythic Plus skip. Holy Priest is the least represented healer in Mythic Plus right now. So, you know, every little helps. A little bit of utility in terms of a skip would be very, very welcome. would not object to that at all. And the other priest specs are not that massively represented either, so they would not mind that extra utility either. So hopefully we see that updated. As of right now, seeing as it only affects you personally and not your party members, it's hard to think of really any particular use for this. But, well, just bear in mind that hopefully it might be updated and could actually be useful in the future. Power Word Shield is coming to the Holy Priest as well. This was pruned away before to only be there for Discipline and for Shadow. Now it's coming back for Holy. Again, there's a little bit of clunkiness happening here, where, okay, what do we... let's say we've got Prayer of Mending on cooldown, we've got Circle of Healing on cooldown, our instant cast stuff, our Holy Words are used, they're on cooldown. What instant cast ability am I going to be using here while I'm moving to get some healing throughput? Previously, that would be Renew. You'd be casting Renew, which does a heal over time. Now we have Power Word Shield, though, and these both kind of do the same thing, right? You want to put Renew on different targets. Power Word Shield, by virtue of the Weakened Soul, you can only shield someone every 7.5 seconds. You're casting on different targets. So these really sort of fill the same kind of niche. Renew, though, is arguably better. It doesn't give you the upfront shielding, but it has a lot less mana cost. As you can see, they both occur over 15 seconds, and they both actually do the exact same amount. Just Renew is a small bit instant and then heal over time. This is all in the one shield. Again, I think there's potential for pruning here. And my suggestion would be that Renew should be made a talent that would focus and work maybe sort of like Life Bloom for a Resto Druid, that perhaps it would have either a large cooldown, so you could only have 1 or 2 up at a time, or you could only have 1 up at a time, but it would provide a significant sort of single target heal over time to help with our, again, single target healing in Mythic Plus. You could probably stick it in Tier 1 here in place of Enduring Renewal, obviously, to compete with Trail of Light, which is more about spreading your heal around your party. You could have Renew come in as, well, give you extra single target throughput to help with that tank healing, which is a problem for us. And I think that would be a very welcome change. And again, just deal with this problem where we've got multiple buttons really kind of filling in the same rotational slot. Okay, now a couple of interesting ones, big ones coming in here. First of all, Power Infusion. This is massive. It's a 2-minute cooldown, instant cast, that infuses the target with power for 20 seconds, increasing haste by 25%. This is across all pre-specs, and this is an absolutely massive cooldown, an absolutely massive buff. It looks like this, ta-da, and as you will see, like, this is me smiting with Power Infusion. You can see the speed of it. If I cancel off Power Infusion, here's the speed. You can see it's a noticeable power difference, a noticeable throughput increase. I've talked about this with the other pre-specs. There's pros and cons to it. The pro is that, well, because you can cast this on anybody, it's not just yourself, there's interesting gameplay potential of being like, okay, I want to cast it on my damage dealer to kill the boss faster, kill this pack in Mythic Plus faster. That's cool. Or I could cast it on myself when I need more healing. I could cast it on my tank if haste would help the tank. Not as useful, I don't think. Probably just use it on a damage dealer, but it's an option, right? You've got options, is the point. The downside is that you could be very much pressured into using it on other people. It might be much better, much more optimal to use it on other people. I think this is especially true of Holy Priest. Like Disc Priest and Shadow Priest both work very well with haste. Holy Priest, haste is not our main stat. It's not as significant a stat at all as it is comparatively for those other two pre-specs. So I feel like the Holy Priest is going to be even more incentivized to use this on other people. Especially seeing as we already have major healing CDs in the form of, well, and this, I'm talented into Apotheosis for Dungeons, but in terms of Holy Word Salvation, in terms of Divine Hymn, we already have big raid CDs. So yeah, that's something of a concern, for sure. You know, you kind of want to use this on yourself. You want to have your spells benefiting you the most. So if you're not very minded, you don't like that supportive mindset of buffing other people, this could feel kind of bad. So just bear that in mind. Then the other big one is Shadow Word Death. This has a 20-second cooldown, reduced by haste, 40-yard range, instant cast, no mana cost as of yet. Word of Dark Binding that inflicts 2,700 shadow damage to the target. If the target's not killed by Shadow Word Death, it does the damage back to the caster. And then additionally, let me show you what my max health will be here with this as well. Additionally, it does double damage to targets below 20% health. So this is massive amounts of damage. Like I said, bear in mind, your smite's doing 900. This is doing 3 times the amount of damage as a smite. In Execute, this is doing 6 times the amount of damage as a smite. It's absolutely insane. This hits so hard. It looks like this. Here's the damage reflect. As you can see there, I have about 22,000 health with Power Word Fortitude on, which has, by the way, been nerfed to 5%, which is not a big deal, really. But it's doing just over 10% of my health. It's doing about a quarter of my health when we're in Execute. If it crits, if the target has damage increases on it, if I have intellect procs that are going to up my damage, this is going to really rip chunks out of your own health bar, so that's definitely something to be aware of. But it's definitely a very cool addition to the Holy Priest damage toolkit. The only real downside I would particularly say, apart from the damage to yourself, is that Discipline Priest is also getting this, and it's probably better for Discipline Priest. Ever the problem for Holy Priest is competing with Disc, right? But yeah, there you are. So those are the baseline talent changes. Again, if we look at our talent tree, there's a couple of changes here as well. So number 1, Afterlife has been buffed. It now increases the range of our healing spells while in Spirit of Redemption by 30%. And this is going to tie in very much so to an awesome, cool legendary that if you played in Legion, you're going to be very excited to see coming back. We'll come to that in just a couple of minutes here. So Afterlife being buffed is cool to compete with Guardian Angel for kind of Mythic Plus and maybe PvP. I've never played Holy Priest in PvP. I play Disc, so could be good in PvP, but great in Mythic Plus, obviously, and Cosmic Ripple, just, you know, passive throughput stuff. So that's cool. See a bit of love for Afterlife, which is a meme talent for BFA, let's be real. Then the other change is Prayer Circle, which is there in place of Circle of Healing. Now that Circle of Healing is baseline. And this is pretty cool, actually. Using Circle of Healing, reduce the cast time of your Prayer of Healing by 30% for 8 seconds. So if you really like spending your mana, this is going to be great. You're going to get a lot of throughput with this. If I show this off to you, so Prayer of Healing speed by default is like so. I do 3 of them here. That's what it's going to look like. Now, if I do Circle of Healing, there's the Prayer Circle buff. And now my Prayer of Healings, you can see they're going to come out a lot more quickly. We're really going to start blasting them out. I got about 4 of those in with the basic level of 6% haste, yikes, that we have here at the start of the expansion. You're going to get about 4 of them off within that time period of the Prayer Circle. So yeah, I think it's a really cool talent, actually. It's fun. It feels very noticeable in your rotation, and it's something you're going to be able to play around. I think it sort of fits in well with Binding Heal and Surge of Light. These are relatively minor changes to your rotation, but they are tangible. You're going to notice using these different abilities, which is good. I think it's perfect talent. It's what it should be. So there you are. They're the baseline changes to the Holy Priest. I mean, on the whole, I would say that they are, broadly speaking, positive changes. We get some really nice things to our damage toolkit. Shadow Word Death is awesome. Mindseer is a lot more usable than Holy Nova. Shadow Word Pain is fantastic. It adds a multi-dot type playstyle, which is great. Holy Fire is way more usable and much more powerful now. Like I said, the only real downsides with these baseline changes, I feel like there's definitely clunkiness, for sure. I think a second pass through here to really streamline the toolkit is going to be better. So we don't have Holy Nova and Mindseer both sharing the same design space. We don't have Mind Blast and Holy Fire kind of overlapping. We don't have Renew and Power Word Shield kind of overlapping. I think there's really good potential to have a spec set up super well, not only for this expansion, Shadowlands, but for expansions to come. If, you know, we slim down some of this stuff, and like I said, my suggestions, broadly speaking, you know, have Renew be a talent that helps with single target healing, and just have Power Word Shield fill that baseline slot instead. Have Holy Nova maybe come in as a talent that could replace or just exist alongside of Mindseer for whatever usefulness it has. Yeah, just kind of stuff along those lines, you know. Have Mind Blast probably replace Holy Fire baseline. Have Holy Fire come in as a sort of a single target healing assistant as well. I think if you do some cool stuff there, that would really help out the spec, and I think would fit in well and streamline what is a rather bloated set of bars here. For the legendaries then, for the Holy Priest, there's 3 generic ones for all priests. There is 1 Discipline Priest specific legendary that's extremely powerful looking right now, that I don't know if it's going to work for Holy Priest, but I'll show it to you right now anyway, actually. This is currently on my Grimveil pants, and this reduces Shadow Word Death's cooldown by 8 seconds and causes its damage to trigger Atonement. Obviously the second part, no use to a Holy Priest, but getting that cooldown reduction on Shadow Word Death is actually pretty substantial. You know, that brings it from a 20-second to a 12-second cooldown. And obviously then further reduced by haste. But again, like, this does so much damage that this could potentially be a viable talent choice, or a viable legendary choice, possibly, if we're able to use it, depending on how the numbers work out. I just thought I'd point it out in case it does end up being relevant to us. In terms of our 3 all priest legendary stuff that's there for every single priest spec, we have, in this case, Grimveil Sandals. When Shadow Word Pain expires on a target, 5 allies within 30 yards of the target are healed for 3% of their maximum health. So obviously going to be good in raid fights, so there's lots of ads coming in, so you can multi-dot. It's going to be great in Mythic Plus. The way this works is that it also works when the target dies if they have Shadow Word Pain on them at the time. So you're kind of guaranteed to get quite a bit of value out of it. I also feel like, compared to Shadow and Discipline, where you're quite motivated to keep up your dots like at all times, with Holy Priest, you know, you've got a lot of these short cooldowns. I've already talked about sort of the semi-cluttered rotation that we have, but you've got lots of other buttons that you're going to press. Certainly for Holy Priest, compared to the other 2 priest specs, you're going to have Shadow Word Pain expire more often. Even if you might not want it to expire, it will expire more often than it will for the other ones. So you'll get even more benefit out of this as Holy, perhaps. We also have the Shadowghast Ring here. Leap of Faith instead causes you to leap to your target and have 2 charges. So that's a very, very cool utility ability returning. The bad news, of course, is that we can only equip 1 legendary at a time. Are you going to give up a legendary that increases the amount of healing or damage you can do, or really powers up your spec, for something that's just utility? Probably not. Maybe down the line in the expansion we can equip more than 1 legendary, maybe 2, maybe 3, 4, 5. Who knows? Who knows? And in those situations, then this could become really cool. But at least on launch and here in the beta, this is not something that we're really going to use at all. And then finally, for the generic ones, we have the Grimveiled Hood here. Power Infusion also grants you 100% of its effects when used on an ally. So that is fantastic. That's really, really nice to play around. It's going to feel really good. It will work very well for healers. So, like, there's a big tough healing check coming up in a raid fight. Oh gosh, that the boss does tons of damage. Well, I'll power infuse another healer. Like, I'll power infuse our Resto Druid, and me and the Resto Druid are just gonna go ham. He'll innervate me back, and I think they get half of the effect of innervate now, I think, right? So we'll both, like, buff each other, and we'll just go crazy with the healing, and it's gonna be awesome, right? That could be super cool. Will be a bit more clunky when you use it with a damage dealer in a raid. They're probably gonna want to use their damage CDs on cooldown, which, you know, will Power Infusion be good for you when it's good for a damage class to use their DPS CDs? Probably not. It will also be very nice, though, in Mythic Plus, in which case, you know, you're fighting a tough Mythic Plus pack. It's going to be very useful there, right? Because, okay, tough Mythic Plus pack, you want your damage dealer to do more damage, kill that pack quickly, get out of there as fast as you can, and you're also going to want the haste as well, so that, well, you're going to be powered up and you can actually heal through this dangerous pack much more safely. So it's going to be great in Mythic Plus. We also have 4 Holy Priest specific legendaries too. Let's start with probably the most exciting one. This is the Grimveiled Pants in this case. After Spirit of Redemption expires, you will revive at up to 100% health based on your effectiveness during Spirit of Redemption. After reviving, you cannot benefit from Spirit of Redemption for 10 minutes. So this is, what was it, the Archbishop Benedictus or something legendary from Legion. It was the most popular legendary back in Legion, and it's really great to see this come back. It's just super cool. And it's a legendary that you can really play around, you know? Like, a tough part of a raid fight, you can absolutely sacrifice yourself in a tough Mythic Plus pack. You can even sacrifice yourself so you can free cast without worrying about crowd control, what have you, and just blast out a ton of free healing uninterrupted to your teammates, and then resurrect afterwards. Or, again, if not intentionally, you just happen to die in a fight, well, it is essentially a cheat death effect. You come back to life afterwards. It's the second life, which is a really big deal in raid fights. So this is super cool. And again, I mentioned it before when we're looking at Afterlife. Afterlife increases the duration of your Spirit of Redemption, and now additionally increases the range of those healing spells. Well, this talent really comes into its own when you combo it with this legendary. So that's really nice to see, again, a dead talent actually come back to life. Much like this makes you do. Huh? Oh. Dad jokes. Sorry. Grimveil Belt next. We have this one. When you use a Holy Word spell, you have a chance to summon an image of a Naru at your side. Actually, you know what? And they're going to copy your spells. This is another Legion effect. I'm going to start spamming out stuff, because I've been testing this one, and the proc chances, it's abysmal. It's really bad. So, Okay, I just used my 3 Holy Word spells and we didn't get it. Tell you what, let me pop this and I'll be with you in a second. I'll just spam out some spells. Very passive, you know, like the Naru. It looks cool, but it's not doing anything particularly different. It's just going to copy your spells. Someday it's going to copy my spells. I don't know. Let's use it. This is, as you can see, rather a big issue with this right now. That was Apotheosis. That's a 20-second cooldown that reduces my Holy Word, increases my Holy Word cooldown reduction by 300%. We didn't get a single Naru proc. The proc chance is very poor. That's what I very much noticed. And it is ultimately as well very passive. You're not going to be doing anything different. There he is. So I cast healing spells. He's going to cast healing spells. I cast damage spells. He's going to cast damage spells. Is he going to do a lot of damage? He's going to do a little bit. He's going to do a little bit of damage, that's for sure. In this case, he's doing about... I mean, he's doing about 25% of my damage there. Maybe 20%. So, I mean, yeah, let's say about 20% DPS increase when he's up. The issue is that he doesn't seem to proc all that often. And you're not really going to change your gameplay, but it's there. Next up is a very nice one, actually, for Mythic Plus. Again, each time you cast Flash Heal, your next heal cast within 15 seconds has its casting time reduced by half a second and healing increased by 15%, stacking up to 3 times for a total of 1.5 seconds off and 45% increased healing. So, again, a normal heal looks like this. Heal, 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 heal. Very slow, but efficient. If I do 3 Flash Heals, you'll see the buff building up. There's actually a graphic that will appear as well. There you go. And a sound effect. And then my next heal is faster and it's going to heal for much more. So that's a nice little benefit that will help with that single target healing for sure. And then finally we have the Shadowghast Ring. I actually found this one really fun to play around in the dungeon. Very simple, very straightforward. Circle of Healing reduces the cooldown of Holy Word Sanctify. Prayer of Mending reduces the cooldown of Holy Word Serenity. And Holy Fire reduces the cooldown of Holy Word Chastise. Each of those doing them by 4 seconds. I think that makes this just... You know, it's nothing too fancy in a way, but again, in these early dungeons, where healing is going to be challenging for sure, and pushing Mythic Plus later, where healing will, of course, remain challenging. I mean, Circle of Healing, Prayer of Mending, and Holy Fire, they're pretty much like your top tier things that you want to press. So making those link in to reducing your Holy Words just feels fantastic. You know, it feels really, really good in Mythic Plus to be pressing those super efficient and super powerful buttons and having those... Well, I mean, like, okay, Prayer Mending not super powerful, but it's a nice, efficient instant cast ability, right? But Circle of Healing is really good, and Holy Fire is amazing. So pressing those buttons on cooldown, you're going to get rewarded for that with more Holy Words, and that feels really nice. So yeah, on the whole, honestly, I actually think the Holy Priest is a really, really good set of Legendaries in here. Like, leaving just the passive ones aside, you know, getting the Cheat Death, I don't know if I'm going to make this jump. Oh, intense. Yes, we will. Getting the Cheat Death effect and being able to play around that is super impactful and super cool. The Naru is the least interesting one to me. It looks visually awesome, but it's not going to affect your gameplay too much. Then building around the single target flash heals and main heals for Mythic Plus, or then just getting more Holy Words out. Each of those is going to be tangible. You're going to definitely notice using each of these Legendaries from the classes I've looked at so far and the specs I've seen. Probably it's just a really nice, solid, and good set of Legendaries. So yeah. Let's look at the Conduits next. All right, so our Conduits, essentially, they're kind of like gem slots. They fit into your soulbinds, and you've got different soulbinds. I'm not going to talk about soulbinds in this video, but there are, just so you know, endurance slots, which help your survivability, potency slots, which help your throughput, and finesse slots, which sort of help your utility. So let's take a look at the ones that we have for the Holy Priest. First of all, the endurance conduits. We have Light's Inspiration. Desperate Prayer heals you for an additional 5% of your maximum health over 5 seconds. We have Translucent Image. For the first 2 seconds of Fade, you take 5% less damage. And Charitable Soul. Casting Power with Shield on an ally also shields you for 10% of the amount for 10 seconds. So needless to say, at least at this particular level, basically all of these are terrible for Holy Priest and not really interesting at all. Finesse Conduits then are a bit better. Clear Mind, Dispel Magic, Purify, Master Spell costs 20% less mana. Move with Grace, Levitate gives 20% increased movement speed. Power unto Others, casting Power Infusion on an ally reduces its cooldown by 5 seconds. And Mental Recovery, after Psychic Scream ends, affected target's movement speed is reduced by 40% for 5 seconds. So these are much better You know, Clear Mind is nice. You know, mana, like especially for Mass Dispel, it's expensive enough in terms of mana, so it's relatively passive, but it's going to be pretty useful, especially in, again, Mythic Plus, where you're using a lot of this utility stuff. Like especially in bursting weeks, for example, bursting is going to be dispellable by Mass Dispel. So that's going to be very, very nice. Levitate giving move speed is fantastic. We're very slow spec, so getting any extra movement speed is really good. You can obviously give this to other members of your party too, so that's fantastic as well for a bit more movement. Power into others synergizes great with the power infusion legendary effect, and mental recovery helps you with peeling in PvP, helps you with peeling in Mythic Plus. Very, very cool. Then for our potency ones, we have 4 Holy Priest specific potency conduits so far. Resonant Words. Casting a Holy Word spell increases the healing of your next heal or flash heal by 10%. Let me just go through all of these and I'll talk about whether they're good or not. Holy Oration. Spells that reduce the cooldowns of your Holy Words reduce them by 5% more. Focused Mending. Prayer of Mending's first target is healed by an additional 20%. And Lasting Spirit. Guardian Spirit's duration is increased by 5 seconds, and it increases healing received by an additional 10%. So what I will say is that overall, I think these are relatively bland. The one that stands out to me as being really awesome is Lasting Spirit. This one is fantastic. Like, Guardian Spirit is by default 10-second duration and increases healing effects on a target by 60%. This is going to really, like, ramp that up. Do I have actually Holy Conduits in here? Oh, I do. I do. Hang on. Let me remove that real fast and slap in. I don't know, this thing. Sorry. Boom. So the basic... okay, I guess no, it does. It doesn't actually show it on the tooltip. Okay, that's fine then. So, yeah. Lasting Spirit is actually really good here. You know, having 15 seconds of Guardian Spirit instead of 10, fantastic. More healing, fantastic. And that really helps our Mythic Plus gameplay as well. It helps us keep tanks alive with the Guardian Angel talents in particular. It's going to be very welcome. Focus Mending is underwhelming, but I mean, I guess it's something. Your initial target pick for Prayer Mending matters a bit more, but nah. Reducing Holy Words more is cool, though 5% is very minor. Maybe higher levels of this will add up to more Holy Words and feel a bit better. We shall see. And I guess it does probably synergize somewhat with Apotheosis, so that's kind of nice. And Resonant Words, casting Holy Word increases the healing of your next heal or flash heal. Again, it's not going to have too much of an impact on your gameplay, but it will be a nice conduit to stick in there to help with Mythic Plus. Again, you know, it's going to help you with that single target healing, so that's very welcome for the Holy Priest. So yeah, the conduits, they're okay. Not amazing, but they're pretty okay. And it's nice to see some of them, or most of them, kind of help with some of that Mythic Plus situation, which has been a weakness. We are the least represented spec to heal with in Mythic Plus right now in BFA, so this is good for us for sure. We also have, worth noting, Covenant-specific conduits as well. So this is the Courageous Ascension one for the Kyrian Covenant. This makes Ascended Blast do an additional 10% damage. Ascended Eruption does an additional 1% damage per stack of Boon of the Ascended. What the hell does that mean? Well, let me go and show you the Covenant abilities to find out. Okay, so for the Covenants, first of all, we'll look here, obviously, at the Kyrian one. That's what we were on for the start here. And it's what you'll see in the dungeon testing as well, which will be at the end of the video after, well, actually coming right up after these Covenant looks. Summon Steward is your signature ability. Everyone in the Kyrian Covenant has this. You summon in this little dude. He does some extra stuff. The main thing you need to know for combat is he gives you a File of Serenity, which restores 15% health and removes all diseases, poisons, curses, and bleeds affecting you. There's 3 charges on this thing. I can't use it now because I'm at full health, but actually, you know what? I can use it if I Shadow Word Death and hurt myself. Bam. Some nice little effect. Cool. But yeah, it's just pretty nifty. All of the signature abilities are very situationally useful. Like, there will be situations where they're going to be amazing, and then there'll be situations where they're only okay to really not very useful at all. It's pretty obvious. If you have those effects on you, this is going to be super useful. If they're not in a particular fight, or they don't hit you, it's going to be only very, very mediocre. It's a small heal, so there you are. Now, the Priest Covenant ability for Kyrians is the Boon of the Ascended. This is by default a 1.5 second cast time ability with a 3-minute cooldown, and draw upon the power of the Ascended for 10 seconds, granting access to Ascended Nova and replacing Smite with Ascended Blast, and increasing movement speed by 50%. Upon expiration, release an Ascended Eruption, exploding for about 2,000 arcane damage to all enemies and 2,600 healing to all allies within 15 yards, increased by 3% for each stack of Boon of the Ascended. So let me show this to you here. We'll replace Smite over here with Ascended Blast, which we can do every 3rd GCD. And it will replace this with Ascended Nova here. So let's go into it. It looks awesome, by the way. So we're going to Blast, Nova, Nova, Blast, Nova, Nova, Blast, Nova, Nova, Blast, Nova. and kaboom, we explode. And there you are. So I did flick up the tooltips there. You can read over those if you would like by pausing the video. Cool thing about it is that obviously Ascended Nova is doing AoE damage. It's also doing AoE healing. And Ascended Blast does big single target damage, but it also replicates 100% of damage done to your target, which is awesome. So this is going to be very, very potent in AoE. You're going to be pulsing out a lot of AoE damage. Ascended Blast, by the way, generates 5 stacks of this, and Ascended Nova generates 1 stack per target hit. So in AoE, the Ascended Nova is going to do lots and lots of damage, build up lots of stacks, and that Ascended Eruption is going to do a ton of damage and a ton of healing. Feels super good. In single target, you're going to pop this and just use Ascended Blast, and then sort of weave in 2 spells in between each Ascended Blast, and that's kind of how that's going to work. I find this one super fun. It feels great in AoE. It's a big burst cooldown, which is cool. One thing about... Oh god, I have killed myself. This is the end for me. One thing about Holy Priest. I've been testing the Demon Hunter as well. Oh man, it shows. It shows in this video. This is the end for us. A slow death. A slow death. One thing about Holy Priest, I suppose, is that, well, you're gonna have Apotheosis or Salvation, probably. So you on top of Divine Hymn, so you already have several cooldowns. So another big cooldown on top of that, you know, you're gonna have a lot of big cooldowns to manage, but at the same time, you're probably playing Holy Priest, at least partially, because you enjoy having those big cooldowns. So that's gonna feel pretty good there. And we're gonna log out before we die. Ha, perfect. Never died. Never happened. For the Necrolords, your signature ability is Fleshcraft. It is a 2-minute cooldown channeled spell. It takes 4 seconds to channel it, and it will form a shield that will give you 20% max health shield for 2 minutes, which is quite substantial. And on top of that, if you cast this spell near a corpse, you can channel the essence of the corpse to grow the shield up to 50% of your maximum health. So again, you know, like, this is, again, situationally useful. It's going to help you survive one-shot abilities, burst damage, help you doing things like soaks and raids and stuff like that. So it's going to be very welcome to the Holy Priest toolkit, which is pretty low on self-survivability. And then your Covenant-specific ability for priests is Unholy Nova, a 1-minute cooldown, 500 mana instant cast. An Explosion of Dark Energy heals allies within 15 yards for 2,100, and infects enemies with Unholy Transfusion, which does 2,700 shadow damage over 15 seconds, and allies who damage the target are healed for 170. This has an internal cooldown of 1.5 seconds, so in total they can trigger it 10 times, right, for 1,700 extra healing. So this obviously all adds up to quite a lot. It's very straightforward, really. You know, it's just whatever, you know, button. You're going to press this every minute. In AoE, it's going to do a lot of AoE healing. It's going to do a lot of AoE damage in the dot, and it's, you know, it's going to have that trickle healing happening as well. So very straightforward, very simple, but it's going to be very powerful and very effective and feel good to press. Yeah. You know, straightforward. Well, I feel like it's a theme of the Maldraxxus guys. They're practical and straightforward, and so is this. If you are a vampire, you're probably going to be checking out the Venthyr Covenant. Very powerful signature ability here, the Door of Shadows. Probably the most hyped up one coming into the beta and alpha for sure. It's a 1-minute cooldown, 1.5 second cast, 35-yard range, when through the shadows appearing at the targeted location. So very, very simple. Pick and choose your point, and bam, after the cast time, you're just going to instantly teleport there. So very nice for dodging abilities in raid, helping with movement speed generally as well, getting around the place in a fight, and could enable some skips in Mythic Plus too. So all of the signature abilities are great for Priest, because we've got pretty bad mobility and pretty bad survivability, particularly so in the Holy Spec. So yeah, they're all really good in their own way. Then the Covenant-specific ability for Priest, for Venthyr, is Mind Games. This is a 1.5 second cast, reduced by haste, 45-second cooldown, assaults an enemy's mind, doing 2,500 shadow damage, and briefly reversing their perception of reality. For the next 5 seconds, the next 4,000 damage they deal will heal their target, the next 4,000 healing they deal will damage their target, and you can get up to 4% mana back based off of that reversed damage and healing. Now, the way it works, I believe, is that I haven't actually tested this too much, to be honest with you, because it's terrible, I think. But the way it works is that the reverse damage can restore up to 2% mana, and the reverse healing stores up to 2%. So you have to trigger both effects. And you see, that's really where it's quite clunky. In PvP, it's going to work great, right? It's going to work great in PvP. In raids, there's lots of enemies that don't heal themselves, so you're not going to get anything out of the reversed healing effect at all. In Mythic Plus, again, only some enemies are going to heal themselves, and typically speaking, you're trying to interrupt those heals. You're not going to let them go through. So I think it's going to be very difficult to actually get the full effect out of this ability. this obviously, it works better for Shadow in a sense because it gives Insanity back, and it works better for Disc because it works with Atonement. For Holy, this really doesn't synergize all that much at all. Like, it's a decent chunk of damage on a spell, and that's okay. And yeah, it's probably for the most part going to heal your tank, right? You're going to cast it on a boss or a mob. They're going to smack your tank, and it's going to reverse 4,000 of that damage into 4,000 healing on your tank instead, which does add up to a lot. Like, if you take away the 4,000 damage they would have taken and turn it into 4,000 healing instead, that's an 8,000 health difference, which is a big chunk. So that's very nice. And heck, this might end up being really useful, again, in that situation in Mythic Plus to help with the tank healing. Perhaps it will be. But it's just not the most exciting thing to use. Like, you're kind of just gonna press it on whatever, really. It doesn't really matter what you target too much. Just try target something that can heal, I guess. It's a little bit clunky, kind of underwhelming. It does look badass though. Nice red effect, but yeah, not particularly exciting for Holy Priest, I'm afraid. And then finally for Holy, we have the Night Fae. Their signature ability is Soul Shape. It will turn you into a Vulpin, increasing movement speed by 30%, and you can reactivate this to teleport 10 yards forwards. This lasts 12 seconds in combat. While you're in a rested area like this, it lasts indefinitely, which is cool. And has a 1.5 minute cooldown. This is what the teleport looks like. It's called Flicker. So you're going to get about 3 of these teleports off with just the default 12-second duration. So it's kind of nice, you know, like blinking over sanguine pools or whatever, blinking over fire on the ground. Has some usefulness there. And again, mobility is always cool. Then the big Covenant ability for Priest is Fey Blessings. A 1.5 minute cooldown for 2,000 mana. Surround yourself with helpful sprites, causing your next 10 spellcasts to age your target depending on your chosen spell. Power Word Shield will invigorate the target with 2% mana or 20% resource. Flash Heal and Heal will reduce damage taken by 10% for 15 seconds. And Prayer of Healing will reduce the cooldowns of one major ability for all targets by 3 seconds. So this is very tasty for Holy Priest for sure. It's kind of unique. Very powerful effects just generally speaking that work a little bit differently for each priest spec. For the Holy Priest, Power Word Shield is not really a great spell to be casting, but you obviously can, and it's not a core part of your rotation at all, at least not while Renew is in. Renew is just sort of the same thing, but effectively better for the most part. So you kind of have to intentionally use this. Now, it could be useful to cast it on like a Frost Death Knight or a Shadow Priest or something, you know, help them make the most out of their resource, so potentially you will intentionally use it for that. Often, I suspect you'll be using it for the other things, though, as a Holy Priest. The damage reduction on heal and flash heal is really, really nice because it's something that we otherwise lack. We don't have any damage reducing cooldowns. So this is going to be great for Mythic Plus to keep your tank alive or just keep your individual people alive in Mythic Plus for sure. That's going to be very welcome. Prayer of Healing is really going to shine then in the raid. This is a particular strength of the Holy Priest, is that, well, the Prayer of Healing is completely spammable, right? We can completely spam this ability as much as we want with Prayer of Healing. Obviously very limited by mana, but you could probably combine this with like Words of Innervate from a druid can innervate you, and you could spam Prayer of Healing and get loads of cooldown reduction out super fast, which the other pre-specs just simply can't do with Fey Blessings. The ability looks like this, by the way. I have a Conduit, which is giving me 12 stacks instead, so it lasts for a minute, right? The buff lasts for a minute, so you got plenty of time to use it. And the Fey Blessings itself, it won't start its cooldown until you've consumed the stacks. You can see here actually the cooldown reduction stuff going off. I can, if I can flash heal myself. If I flash heal them, this person is very curious as to what's happening here. Like, where is this cooldown reduction effect coming? This is exciting. And yeah, I mean, there you go. So it's pretty nifty. And this seems like it could be very powerful. I think, you know, it's quite different because it's sort of utility based. There's definitely a question for all the pre-specs right now as to how this is going to balance out. It seems maybe a bit too strong perhaps right now, but we shall see. It certainly looks awesome. And yeah, there you go. They are all the Covenant abilities for the Holy Priest. And there you have it. They're all the different pieces for the Holy Priest on the Shadowlands beta. For me, I've got a really positive outlook on this spec, actually. I really enjoy Holy. I think it's a really satisfying spec to play. You know, the holy words, your prayers, they all feel super cool to use, and they all look beautiful. It's got such great spell effects. What I feel really positive about for the spec as well is that it seems like a lot of the things that are being given to us, the new damaging abilities, and a lot of our conduits, are trying to shore up some of those big weaknesses from Holy Priest in Battle for Azeroth. Specifically that we really struggle to deal damage comparatively to other healers, and also our lack of single target healing, especially so in Mythic Plus, that we kind of struggle with that. So it's nice to see that they're trying to improve those things for us. That seems really good. That being said, I definitely feel like a second pass on our toolkit is definitely needed. Like I said in the video and I went over, there's too many spells, right? We need a bit of a pruning. There's just too many buttons. There's too many abilities. And a lot of them sort of clash with each other in the rotation as well. It's just a very busy rotation, which is good. Don't get me wrong. I like it generally speaking, but I do think that Holy Priest goes, 2 or 3 spells a bit too far in that direction and could do with being toned back a little bit, like I already talked about in the video. So I think that's like tweaking it at that little bit would certainly improve the spec quite a lot. But yeah, I think it's looking good. And I have to say, Legendaries for Holy Priest are fantastic. They're really, really nice. Lots of gameplay affecting stuff, which is great. So yeah, Holy Priest, I think we're going to be pretty happy. Of course, we'll still have some of the same weaknesses that we still have, but it is a fun spec to play. The new systems that we're getting help us out quite a lot. And yeah, fun Legendaries. The Covenant abilities are also pretty solid too. They're not going to blow your mind as a Holy Priest, but they're not terrible either. So Holy Priests, you're going to be happy, I think. And I'll see you guys next time. We're going to be looking at Havoc Demon Hunters, the next spec coming up. And of course then every other spec and class in the game after that. So thank you for watching. See you very soon. Bye-bye.